Okay, so we are back with Season 3 of Grand Arena Championships. Now, a few of you might have been wondering why I haven't uploaded any videos yet. I did send a post to my community on YouTube, but I wanted to briefly mention it before the video as well. I've been a little busy at work and will be for the next couple of months or so. Plus, with the holiday season, I'm going to be traveling a lot and spending some time with family. So it's going to be a little constraint for me to do the live recording of my Grand Arena Championship videos. But what I've decided to do is I'm going to record my videos and then consolidate them in a weekly fashion, and then provide commentary after the fact. So I think that might be a better approach for me, at least over the next couple of months. It's not ideal because I know that a lot of you enjoy the live commentary that I do, but it was I mean we've got to find a balance between your real life and the game, and I think that was the best compromise that I could come up with. So it's definitely easier for me to record 4 videos in a month rather than recording a video every couple of days. So anyway, so having said that, let's go ahead and dive into the 3 battles that we have for the last week. So this is how our group looked like at the beginning of the week. We have so really Ships has not added much to the matchmaking. I didn't really notice much of a difference. I'm still pretty low in terms of overall GP. Me and my current opponent in the first match, Nevius, both of us have about 4.8 million GP. Everyone else is anywhere from 5.1 to 5.6. And in terms of gears and zetas also, it's more or less consistent with what we had, what I've seen before. I do have an advantage on mods though. That's something that I noticed, that my mods seem to be better than my current batch of opponents, but that could just be random chance. In terms of General Skywalker, we have about 3 of them who did not have General Skywalker, including my current opponent Navius. But most of them have him, about 4 of them have them at about G11 with 3 to 4 zetas. There's nothing really extraordinary anywhere else. But in the GA stats, one thing to note is that we've got a couple of opponents who've also made it into Kyber. So there's Tanjam and Cuba 7. Both of them in the previous season, they were at Kyber 134 or Kyber 394. So I was fairly certain that if I win my current matchups, I might run into them in the in some of the future matchups. So I was looking forward to those matchups because matches with the other Kyber contestants are always interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our current matchup with Navius. So my opponent for their defenses set a Grievous team and a Padme team up top. I think might have missed setting the 3rd team up top over here because there was one team missing. So my opponent just got 640 banners instead of the 730 on defense. Below they set Night Sisters and the clone team, Shakti clone team. And really I was seeing a 1,000 lead after a long time. So I decided to take in the usual team that I usually take in, Basti Wampa, and I thought that with the Hermit Yoda in there, it should provide some decent amount of healing and I should be okay. So I went in with this team and let's see, and I went in undersized. I just thought I'll experiment a little and try to get some of the undersized feats. And typically this team really does well against Asajj lead because of all the days. The problem is this team applies plenty of plague because each time they use a special, the plague gets applied. So the best way to handle any sister team is basically to get in a character like Watt or someone who prevents revives like General Skywalker. Padme is obviously a very hard counter, but I was trying to save Padme to see what's at the back, which is why I did not use Padme over here. But as you can see over here, things start getting pretty dicey over here. The bonus protection does enable me to prevent some of the plague and debuffs from landing, but very soon that bonus protection is gone, and you can see my Yoda already getting stunned, and the sisters seem to be targeting Grandmaster the Hermit Yoda right now. So Things are not going well. My Yoda is all lost all protection, stunned, and almost gone now. So I realized at this point of time that this was a mistake, and I probably should have taken in a stronger team. But you typically tend to think that thousand lead is weaker than a Sarge lead, just because of all the turn meter gain that a Sarge lead gives. So this team was pretty easy to underestimate, especially since apart from one of them, I think they didn't really have any relics apart from Daka. So it was a pretty easy team to underestimate. So this was a pretty disappointing outcome for me, and I ended up losing this match. The rest of the guys really don't end up doing anything much because as long as Wampa is stunned, they really can't do anything much. Might have been better if I got maybe like a Barris or someone in there to dispel some of the debuffs and to heal some more on crits. But as it stands right now, I quickly put it in airplane mode and exited. So that is the end of this match. So I went back in with a couple of other teams and actually failed. So I was pretty upset about that and decided to just take in my General Skywalker and solo these guys. Now, since my opponent didn't have General Skywalker, I decided to keep mine on offense and kept my clones on defense. But this guy really is not a big deal at all. I mean, for him, the sisters, whether it's Thousand lead or a Sarge lead, uh, it really doesn't matter as much because he inflicts plague, he inflicts a daze, he prevents revives. He's a hard counter against any sisters. So I was able to clean it up for only 33 points against these guys, but I wanted to just proceed and clear the zone to see what's at the back. Now we have so this team I decided to take the bugs against. This is the Shakti team with clones and bugs. There was no Barris in here, so bugs is a natural counter against these guys. I had my Sunfac on defense, so I just went in underhand, and these guys were able to do a pretty good job. It's They have plenty of offense by themselves to do the job well enough, and it might not be possible to recover full banners and protection, but at least 57 points is pretty easy with the bugs against clones. So the AoE from Sarge is a little concerning, but what you have to do over here is when you're facing this kind of a composition is take out Shakti first, because as long as you're attacking the clones, Shakti gets tons of turn meter. So you need to do what you can to take out Shakti first and then take out fives, and that makes the job much easier. This Shakti also had the lead Zeta, so that's why these guys are recovering some protection. But now that fives is gone, the rest will fall pretty easily. Rex was one shot with the spy, and then I take out Echo next because his AoEs can be problematic. And then finally we have Clone Sergeant. So 57 banners over here, and then we reveal what's at the back. And I see over here that he's kept a bugs and a new team. Now my opponent went reasonably heavy on defense because it kept his Padme and Grievous team at the top. So I wanted to make sure that I took care of those. And the problem was that I had gone really heavy on defense as well. So I was not sure whether I would be able to clear all these guys. But good thing was, his two of his toughest teams were on defense. So I was sure that my opponent might not be able to clear me even if they tried. So Padme is a reasonably hard counter against Grievous. I think it's the most comfortable team that I have taking against it. My Jedi are at this stage not there yet. All of them are G11, G12, but I need to get my Yoda and Jolie and a few others G13 for the Jedi counter to work slightly better. In this case over here, what I go ahead and do is I'm trying to see whether it's worth it to do an AoE, but I just take out B2 over there, and you can see over here Grievous has taken out my Shakti. So not an ideal situation, but at least we've got the main characters in there, and GK is continuing to tank out the battle like a champ. Now it's just a question of building enough stacks of courage and trying to target Grievous and getting him down. Luckily, we do have about, I think we had about 16 or 17 stacks over there, so that we were able to take care of Grievous. And after that, it's a reasonably easier job to clean these guys up. So just lost Shakti and lost a few banners because of that. But otherwise, it was a pretty straightforward match. Nothing interesting over there. Alright, just cleaning up now, and that should take care of it. So now that this match is taken care of, we have to go and figure out what to take against Padme, which is the other tough team down below. And what I found most useful against Padme is my Treya team. Now this one had Barris, didn't have C3PO, which is the more dangerous version, but I just decided to go in with my Treya Thrawn and complete the job. So decided to take in Savage as well, full squad. Didn't want to take any chances. But what I like to do over here is, especially if my Thrawn outspeeds the Padme team, I like to pass the turn meter over to Treya and isolate Padme and let that isolate remain till the end. I know some people like to isolate Kenobi and fracture Padme, but I find that once you've once you've taken out isolated Padme, the team is much easier to handle. Kenobi is less of a threat once you fracture him, and the goal should be to focus down on Anakin and take him out as soon as possible, and then work on the other characters and leave Padme till the end. Padme, I feel, is not much of a threat as long as she's isolated, because all the moves that she does, it basically relies on isolate not being there. So for example, her basic applies, gives tons of protection up to everyone. Her special heals everyone, and she also calls everyone to assist. So if she's isolated, she can't do any of that, and she becomes essentially dead weight. So here you can see my Thrawn was taken out by Ahsoka, but Thrawn has done his job, which is passed the turn meter over to Treya and then fractured Kenobi and allowed me to annihilate Jedi Knight Anakin. So now I'm just continuing to work down on Kenobi and to take him out, all the while just making sure that the team does not build up any stacks of courage, because percentage health damage is something which Treya teams are really susceptible to. So if you're not careful, then the wrong character could be one shot. I renew the isolate on Padme, and then try to work on Ahsoka to take her out. And yeah, now I just go ahead and annihilate Kenobi because I don't want any other taunts, and then just continue to work on Ahsoka. And now there's just Barris, and it's a reasonably simple battle to control at this point of time. So the other counters to Padme, we do have because a lot of these teams, they require counters. They're based on counters like Jedi Knight Revan and CLS, and they can be used to counter Padme, but you just have to be a little careful around certain things. And I found the Treya counter to be way more reliable. I think it's possible if you use single target attacks with your Jedi, like Jedi Knight Revan. If you use single target attacks, it should be possible to take down Padme pretty easily with JKR as well. So that's definitely an option as well. But if you have your Treya and you're not using her for anything else, and you see Padme on defense, then this is the best way to go. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to show the ship battle. There was nothing really fancy over there. I had to double shot his General Kenobi. I don't have General Kenobi myself, so I double shotted using my Millennium Falcon and Mace. But I wanted to just show one or two battles over here before we move on to the next match. So here, I by this time I was exhausted. I had exhausted almost all of my team except a couple of ones, and I probably knew that I wouldn't be able to take out his geos. But I had my crew still in there, so I decided to take my crew against the Newt and Stealth Scoundrel team. And I really haven't done this battle um, without CLS or some other heavy team. And I was a little doubtful whether these guys will be able to do the job, crew, because this is a plain crew team without any water, anything like that. So I was a little, hesitant whether I'll be able to do it. But the two-turn stun on Nest really helps, because Nest is out in the open, and if she's not stunned or dazed, anything that you do to her will come back to you because she'll counter. So that really helped, and I waited till these guys got out of stealth, and then I was able to basically target some of these guys and get them down. You'll notice that I did not take care of extortion right away. I waited till all the separatists were dead before I did that. But here you see I do a double turn stun on Dooku as well, because he's the main danger out there. His counters can get pretty irritating. The good thing about extortion is its percentage health damage. So both the Kylos are not going to have any any effect to that. So that's always good to see. So Leia is the next one that I want to take care of, but first I want to see if I can't land another stun on Nest, and then I continue to work on Newt, and then there I land another double turn stun on Nest to control her, because days from Nest can really screw up the turn of the first order team, because they rely so much on turn meter generation. So that's why it's important to control Nest over here. So yep, so here the battle is very much in control. I've still not started taking out the extortion, but I'm trying to see if I can't get rid of the two of them in stealth. At this point of time, I'm just waiting for Newt to come out of stealth, and now I target him and take him out, and now I start cleansing the extortion, I guess. So because I want to end with full health and full protection, or at least recover as much protection as I can, so now I try to go ahead and dispel all the extortion that I have, because there's nobody over here to essentially make use of extortion, or profit rather. So there you see all the extortion has been cleansed, and we just have two characters in stealth to take out, which should be a pretty easy enough job for these guys. Alright, so that's the final one left, Acolyte, and I managed to take her out in one shot and finish the job. So unfortunately I didn't have anything much left for the Geo team, so I'm just going to fast forward some of these battles. I tried with a bunch of teams, including Old Republic and with my Jedi Training Ray and Troopers and all of that. But if you really don't have the right teams left to take out the Geos, they can get pretty problematic. So I ended up leaving this zone undefeated, and was just waiting for my opponent to make his move and see what they had in store for my defense. I was a little disappointed I couldn't clear the zones, but I was fairly confident of the win. So my opponent decided not to attack me, and I ended up winning this match. Maybe he didn't have time, or maybe he just wasn't interested. But this ended up being a pretty straightforward victory for me. On to the next one. So this is what the matchups looked at the end of the first round. We have Tamjan, Maulclaw, Cuba 7, and me, who ended up with one victory each. My current opponent is Cuba 7 in the second match. Pretty evenly matched up, I think. I do have better mods than him, but he does have a pretty decent defensive and offensive record, better than me. And he made it slightly higher in Kyber last time than me, ranked 394. Got quite a lot of T1, T2, and T3 relics as well. So this will be an interesting match. So let's briefly go over the defenses that I've set in this match before we move on to the offense phase. Now at the top, I sent a Kira team, set rebels over here with a couple of tanks, and I set Newt with Nest, with Django as well. So hoping that gets some decent banners. And because my opponent has General Skywalker, I've kept the full 501st over here, as well as General Grievous with BB-8. That's a slightly tougher version in my opinion. And then I kept Basti with the EP out here with my sisters, a recently relict Night Sister Spirit. And I kept both my Mace and Rebels on offense, and kept a weak Tarkin team for defense on ships. So this is what I'm facing. My opponent also has kept Grievous with BB-8 and CLS team, and then Bounty Hunter Nest with Newt and Watt. So I decided to attack the Newt and Watt team first, and a reliable counter for Newt is Geos. So they usually, even undersized, they're able to do a decent job against the Newt team. In this case, we do have Watt also in there, which is why I think decided to go in with a full squad of Geos. But I think these guys would have done the job even with undersized. So here the tank tech goes out to Scarif Rebel Pathfinder, and you can see how quickly these guys are able to take out Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. Because of all those multiple attacks, within a couple of turns he's gone. And that tech that Newt gave out the Watt gave out is completely useless. So now I go ahead and try to take out Watt because I don't want any other techs going out. And then I want to take out Dooku because I don't like his counters. And then I just work on Droidica to dispel that, because otherwise he'll start assisting. And was able to take it out pretty easily as well. So this is when I started thinking that I should have gone an undersized and maybe left out Sunfac or someone like that, because these guys are doing a really strong job against them. And I think I end up with close to 60 banners, maybe 59 or so. Yeah, 59. So that was a good outcome. Pretty straightforward match. My goal over here was to one-shot everything, because my opponent really does know how to play, set a decent defense, and I was sure he was going to one-shot all of my teams. So I wanted to make sure that I expose what's at the back, but at the same time take just enough to clear the offenses. So I decided to go in with my Treya against his Bounty Hunter with Nest, and just because I want clean one-shots. And you'll notice over here that I'm going in with all full characters. I'm not really taking a risk of undersizing anything, because I want to make sure that I win first and foremost. The undersized feats and all that other stuff can come in much later, but especially against really good opponents, you want to make sure that you win the battle in the first go itself. That's much more important than trying undersized feats. So here his team went a bunch, and they're very close to getting their contract as well. But what I'm doing over here is basically just applying an isolate on Bosk, and then when I dispel the taunt, it's not going to come back again despite his Zeta. So here you see my Nihilus almost got taken out, which would have really been terrible for me. But luckily Maul got to go and healed him up a little bit with his AoE. And now I'm just working on these guys with my other characters in order to get at least some of the dangerous ones down. The most dangerous in my opinion was Boba, because of all the executes that he can do. So I first take him out once. And Django. So now Django took out my Maul. So I have Annihilate ready. I take care of Nest. But now that they have their contract ready, I have to take them all out one by one. Can't really attack Django yet because of his damage immunity. But I can work on them slowly enough. So now the damage immunity is gone, so I start working on Django. Zam is also a big problem because of all the thermals. That can cause health damage. Percentage health damage is always bad for Treya teams. So I'm able to, whenever I get the chance, I'm trying to take out Zam. But now Django is pretty close to death, so I take care of him first before switching my attention to Zam. All right, so a little messy because I ended up losing an extra character, but I think the main thing was it's a reliable one shot. Zam over there came back because of Bounty Hunter's Resolve, but really the steam doesn't take much time to take out. So 52 banners over here, not great, but it was one shot, and I'm able to see what's at the back. So looking at the back, I see that he's kept his sisters and Geonosians over here, and pretty well relic sisters as well. Relic 3 to 5, Asajj, Daka, and Talzin. So I have to figure out what to take against these teams first. But the Karth team is relatively straightforward. I want to take my first order against them. That's a tried and tested counter. I do what I always do, which is start by stunning Juhani so that she doesn't end up cleansing any of these guys. And because Juhani is so slow, she ends up staying under stun for a long time. And while I work on the other guys. Because anybody else that I stun, Juhani will just cleanse the stun immediately and the stun would be completely useless. So this is the best way to go. Alright, so nothing much to talk about in this battle except, slowly working on the other characters, taking them down, applying healing immunity where I can. There is a first order feat over here, which I really didn't pay much attention to completing. So here's my thought on feats. They're great for getting an additional 100-200 points if you really want to rank on top of the leaderboard, but first and foremost you have to get the win, because it used to be 1000 banners, now it's about 1600 banners for the win, and there's no point in killing yourself trying to get these feats for a few hundred points if you're going to miss out on the 1600. So first and foremost that should be a priority, and then if and when it allows you, if even you're sure of the victory, then you can probably go ahead and do the feats. So in this particular matchup, you see, since I'm going up against such a good opponent, I really don't bother about any of the feats, and I just do what I can. I think in this battle I did manage to get a couple of first order kills, like Kylo kills, but yeah, I mean the main goal for me was to preserve banners and get a good victory so that my opponent has a tough target to chase. So relatively easy battle, 60 banners I think is what I get with this. And yep, 60 banners. So let's move on to the next one. So the next two battles are going to be a little tricky. So I have Grievous and I have CLS. And for Grievous, I decided to go into my Padme team. That seems to be the most effective counter for me. So here you can see, because of BB-8, those guys go first. And the main thing is just to survive over here. So I managed to get everyone to survive, and I don't do the AoE yet, but I do heal up everyone with Padme's heal. And the goal over here is to try to get to B2 as soon as possible. So I apply Confuse over here, and I'm trying to decide what to do, I think. And I think I go with hiding Anakin. No, yeah, I hide Anakin over here because I don't want Grievous to target him. So unfortunately BB-8 was taken out, and Magna Guard was taken out as well because of the Retribution. So in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done the Retribution. It's okay to do the Retribution if there's no taunting tag, because then Grievous attacks and then these guys can get rid of him. But yeah, it's probably in hindsight I shouldn't have done the Retribution. Anyway, the battle is still in control. The good thing was his stun was undispelled. The stun that Padme gave to Grievous was undispellable, so I was able to take care of him over there. Plenty of mistakes are made in this battle, but I think I managed to get everyone to survive till the end. Shakti died, and I think my C-3PO will die as well. No, he survived. Okay, so yep, again, percentage health damage, great against Grievous. Things like courage, thermals, expose, all that is is really excellent to deal with Grievous. Now it's just the CLS team, and for this one I decided to go in with my Jedi team, I think, because I think I have enough to take care of those three teams at the back. I don't really need my Jedi over there. Um, Probably in hindsight I should have taken in Wampa with maybe Basti or someone like that. That would have had a quick work against these guys. But you can see over here, even against Jedi Knight Revan, these guys are doing a really great job, and they've almost taken out two of my characters. Savior has already been triggered before I have even had a chance to move. So I'm in a dicey situation, and my Jolie is almost dead. And if he dies, then I'm going to be in a really tough situation. And there you go. Jolie ends up dying, and I've got no way to revive anyone, and I still have all five characters left to take down. So I do the next best thing. I try to take down as many as I can. I take out Chewie first because he's definitely the most dangerous. As long as Chewie's around, I can't even stun or critically hit Han and CLS. But once Chewie is gone, the battle is much easier to control. Here, unfortunately, I lost Yoda as well, with no way of getting him back. There was a lucky dodge that Revan had, otherwise even he would have gone. So I was able to take out Han as well. At this point, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm able to take down as many characters as I can. Luckily, Mark came around, and I was able to stun CLS, which bought me a little time in order to be able to take these guys down. So with this, I was able to take CLS down, but ended up losing quite a few banners, a couple of very important characters. So after this, I decided that I just have to relic up Jolie and Grandmaster Yoda to add a little bit of survivability and a little bit more damage, because I think that's really going to be critical. Excuse me. So I see that over there at the back, my opponent has a negotiator. So now I decide to first take out the character section before going on to the ship section. Over here, I decide to go with I decide to attack the Night Sister team, but I have a few different teams left. So I decide to go in with this mishmash of Old Republic and Wampa and separate and Watt. Watt obviously to give the taunting tech to Zalbar, which is always great, and then to the weapons mod to Wampa to prevent any revives. And you can see over here there was so much of offense on that Talzin that she one-shot both Karth as well as Watt with her AoE. But luckily we have the two weapons tech out, which is the main thing. And I was expecting to lose Watt anyway, but yeah, Karth also was squishy, so not a big surprise. So here you see whatever Wampa kills remains dead, which is great. So you with the Watt tech on Wampa, you can afford to take out Daka last, just because she's not able to revive anyone. So Talzin died due to dots, and Daka was killed over there, and relatively painless battle once these guys get going. 54 banners. I lost 2 characters, so 3 points each for those 2 characters that I lost. But my main goal was just to finish clearing the zones. Just the Geo team left. I luckily have my Darth Revan saved up, so I just go in with my full Sith Empire team with Thrawn in there, and finish it off. This is a relatively easier battle. Yeah, here I'm debating what to do. I just fracture Alpha, fracture Brute, and then go after Alpha in terms of fear, and then it's a pretty easy job to clean this up. So not much over there, nothing much to see. So there are very few teams that can really effectively take out the Brood. The Geos, so you have to budget at least a few good teams at the back if you want to really be prepared for any surprises. And a few teams that I like to save for the back are Padme, Darth Revan. If you're able to, if you can afford to save these teams for the back, then that's the best case scenario. That'll allow you as much flexibility as possible. That's why in front of the character zone in the back, it's in down south. It's always advisable to keep really tough teams so that your opponent is forced to use something really good and possibly exhaust some really good counter. That's why I always go with the toughest teams in the zone in front of the character section. Otherwise, you're just giving your opponent a free pass to take a look at what's at the back without really exhausting any of the meta teams. So that's really the best way to go. So here you see the final zone is done, 57 banners, and I end up with a total points of let's see, 1688. So I decided to wait for a few hours before going through my ship battle, and I found that my opponent had already attacked me. And this is the status of my defense. Did manage to one shot all the teams at the top with about 55 banners efficiency, I think. Was easily able to take out my Tarkin fleet, no problem over there. And down south was able to one shot my Grievous BB-8, but he did have a lot of problem against my General Skywalker. The first attempt he was able to take care of all the rest of the 501st, but it took him 8 attempts to get down my solo General Skywalker. So that was an interesting outcome. And then it probably exhausted all his teams because he didn't have enough to take care of what was there at the back. One attempt against the sisters, but really wasn't able to do anything much against that. So I had pretty much won by now. My score was already more than his. 1688 versus 1577. So there was a low pressure match on the ships. I decided to go in with my rebel fleet first to try to take down the negotiator in one shot. So I've developed a couple of counters against the negotiator. One is using the rebels, one is using the mace with my own Galactic Republic. Since I don't have negotiator, I can use my Galactic Republic again with my mace team. And they do a decent job. They might not be able to one-shot it, but at least they'll be able to do some damage so that a cleanup team can come in and finish the job. So here you see my rebel team is struggling slightly. I wasn't able to prevent the Daze ability from Kenobi, but I did save my Wiggle till the end, and I was able to take out Sunfac. So I was able to shed the days off from Millennium Falcon, and now I'm just trying to focus down on Jedi Knight Anakin. But the Lando's Millennium Falcon has come in and taken care of my ships. So I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can. The Jedi Knight Anakin is busy taking out the rest of my ships. So I'm just trying to at this stage get as much damage done as possible before I can come in with another fleet. Here I decided to take out the Lando's Falcon. Fleet is something which it's very touch and go. You sometimes get good RNG, you sometimes don't, which is why if you have only one reliable fleet on offense, it can get tricky. And that's why I decided to cheese my defense and keep two relatively stronger teams on offense so that I can take out at least in a couple of shots, if not one shot. Because I think my character section is able to do a decent enough job of holding its own. But if ships is something which I can't cross and my opponent does cross, that is something which can very easily lead to a loss, which is why I don't want to take that chance. I want my ships to give the support that my character section needs. So here you can see the battle is not really going well. I try to do as much as I can, try to take out as many ships as I can so that the cleanup will be easier. At least Jedi Knight Anakin is gone, so now it's just a matter of cleaning up Ahsoka and Fives in the next round. So this battle is gone. So yeah, I just take my Mace fleet in, and I'm able to clear it up in pretty easily, since there's really no big threat in this team. So yep, so that was it. So that was my fleet battle. Couple of attempts, but I don't mind a couple of attempts as long as I'm able to get the full clear. This section is done. The fleet section is done, and I end up with about, let's see what the final score is. I believe it's about 1886 to 1577. So that was the final score at the end of the second match. Let's move to the third one. So here's the status at the end of the second match. I'll be facing Tam Jam, who's also another Kyber contender. He had a 134 rank in Kyber last season or the season before. 5.3 million GP to my 4.8, and a 4 Zeta'd General Skywalker with the R7 General Jedi Anakin and Grievous. Pretty equal in terms of gear and Zetas. I do outmod him, although the speed mods he's slightly better, but on 6E mods I'm almost double. But pretty decent offensive and undersized record. So I was pretty excited going up against him. And let's take a look at the actual roster itself. All right, a quick look at the roster. Pretty well geared Separatists as well as Galactic Republic. Pretty impressive team. Especially the Galactic Republic, I was confident that he would have whatever it takes to take care of my General Skywalker. So by the time that I entered in after a few hours, I found that my opponent had already gone, and taken a couple of battles against EP Malak team that I have. It's basically a shock-based team with Dooku and Basti in there as well. But the JTR with droids and the Bounty Hunter with Nest was one shot. But good to see that the EP team gave him some problem. The ship's obviously one shot as well. Not a big surprise there. And down below, I find that he has taken a couple of battles against my Grievous Watt this time. And no attempt yet on Grievous, on the General Skywalker, which makes me think that might be waiting for me to make a move before he actually proceeds. At the back behind here, I've kept my sisters, and I've kept Newt with the Geos. Now this is an interesting team that I just thought of. So the Brood Alpha's Hive Mind ability is not on his leadership but on his unique. So even if he's not in the leadership slot, he does share that across. And leadership just gives a little extra health and other stats. Protection recovery on basic. But Newt lead, I kept him over here just because of the ability to spread extortion, which is really, really effective. And because of the fact that it's a Zeta Newt, anytime that any of these Geos apply debuffs, 5% health damage gets done. And because Treya and Scion and Nihilus are so susceptible to health damage, I was thinking that if my opponent takes in a Treya counter to that, it's going to end up being extremely effective. So that is the thinking behind keeping Geos behind Newt lead, to just spread extortion and get the debuff damage that the Geos do, to get some extra damage in as well. So let's see if my opponent is able to reach this section to test this defense. Okay, so let's take a look at the defense that my opponent has set. Karth team at the top, Grievous with Watt again, and an interesting hybrid combination of Nest, Wampa, and Vandor, a few other scoundrels. And down below, he's kept his Darth Revan and his sisters. I was surprised to see Darth Revan, because ever since I've got General Grievous, General Skywalker, none of my opponents have really kept Darth Revan on defense. So I was surprised to see Darth Revan over here. And this particular Darth Revan was an interesting one, because the Malak was about 1 speed more than the Darth Revan. So 328 Malak, 327 Darth Revan. And I usually take my Padme against Darth Revan, but I haven't really faced Padme. I've taken my Padme against Darth Revan, which was where Malak was 1 speed more. So I was wondering if this counter would work, but I was not as worried, because the Sith Marauder over here was only G12 and not G13. If it was highly relic, then maybe it would have proved to be problematic. But as you can see over here, right now I'm just taking it easy, trying to decide what to do. I dispel Malik's taunt, but it came back because Shakti crit, so I probably should have done some other ability out there. Now I'm wondering what to do over here. Yeah, I think I end up using the AoE, which I'm not sure if that was the right decision. But I basically need to get rid of Basti as soon as possible, and then HK. Here again, another mistake. I shouldn't have gone after Darth Revan. I should have done HK there with the mass attack, because that basically caused Malik to be health neutralized with DR and take out my GK. So luckily my Anakin survived the big hit from HK, which I think helps if your Anakin is R7, and my Padme survived it as well. And now I'm able to take out HK. I'm in a much better situation with just a solo Darth Malik left. I just need to maintain healing immunity and confuse, and try to take this down as soon as possible. So unfortunately lost my Shakti over there as well, but as long as these three are around, I do have a chance. And now that stun is ready, I'm basically able to take this team out with 51 banners. So not great efficiency, but at least it's a one shot. My goal over here in this match is going to be a one shot everywhere. Now against a sisters team, this is a traditional Asajj lead, so I decided to go in with my Basti Wampa. That's something that I'm always comfortable with. And let's see. Yeah, I think I'm just searching for my team right now, but I get the Basti Wampa team in place with a couple of healers, because I'm not taking any chance at all, and then I keep my Wampa in there. There's no Watt here, but yeah, I think Basti Wampa should be able to do a decent enough job against these guys. There goes the Plague. Wampa is inflicted, but he's able to shed that pretty easily. Stuns don't land, but so that's the first death, and I call Wampa to get the second death in place as well. 126k hits. Now here what I'm doing is I'm attacking people who have days, because if I get any other sister who doesn't have days below 100% health, they get full turn meter because of Asajj's lead. So that's why I always make it a point to attack sisters who have days if I'm getting anyone below 100% health. Don't need the full heal right now. So the days help because there was no mass assist over there. Now try to land buff immunity. That takes care of spirit, and now I take care of Talzin and Asajj in the next couple of turns. So here you see Talzin had days, and when I attacked her, she didn't get to full turn meter, which should be the goal. Ability block over there, otherwise I don't want Plague to go out again. And now my Wampa is ramped up enough. I just call Basti and Wampa to finish these guys off. And finally just Talzin left. And it's an easy 60 banners over here. Okay, so that's the front zone taken care of. Let's see what's at the back, and then we can decide what to take up top. So at the back over here, I was pretty surprised to see Padme on defense, and my opponent had a really good Galactic Republic team which was very capable of taking out my General Skywalker, but keeping both Darth Revan and Padme on defense meant that my opponent never had any intention of clearing my General Skywalker. So I was pretty confident that my opponent was going to end at the score that he's currently at, which is 1337, and I won't be able to clear the board. So as long as I clear the board, I have a victory over here. So against the bounty hunters, they were not fast. I think only 300 or something was the speed of 280 or 290 was the speed of the boss. So I took in my bounty hunters for a quick kill. Death mark. Once a death is gone, I apply the death mark on boss. That's an easy way to clean him up while you work on the others. So, yep, relatively easy counter. This is a pretty standard counter, which I was actually pleasantly surprised to see bounty hunters over here, especially not Django lead, because that's the trickier variant, and without nest as well. But this was a pretty straightforward thing, so it was almost like a freebie because I got to use my troopers who are only G11, and I usually never use them, but in this case it's good enough for a cleanup. All right, so Padme, luckily I did save my Treya team for the back, and I checked the speed of the Padme. It's not very fast, although it is an extremely tanky 85k health. The GK is pretty fast, 274. So my Scion and Treya are not going to outspeed that, so I needed to get Thrawn in as well. And I put in Savage because I wanted to fill out the team. He's a tanky enough Sith. So I've taken these 5 guys. My Thrawn goes first. I pass it on to Treya to isolate Padme. That's always the best approach that I go with. And this particular version of Padme team does have C-3PO, so that makes it a little tricky. But there I go and fracture Kenobi. So isolate Padme, fracture Kenobi. That's always my method of operation. So now my goal is to keep working on Anakin and make sure that he goes down as soon as possible, because he's the most dangerous character out there. So I keep working on him, dispel all of the buffs that he has, and land a stun over here with the ability block. And now Thrawn's is out of fracture, so isolate is so GK is out of fracture. So I go ahead and I'm going to pass this on to, let's see, someone who's got good I think I'm trying to get my Nihilus to go as soon as possible. So there I go and annihilate Anakin, which means that this team is no longer dangerous. Now I just need to so now since I've fractured Kenobi again, all I need to do is take out Shakti, and then this team should go down pretty easily. So I reapply the isolate over there, reduce cooldown some more, get held by hatred, and then continue to work on Shakti. Good thing about Shakti is with all the assists that she gives out, she is attacking out of turn, so she ends up losing a ton of health. There you go, 30% health loss again, and she keeps doing that, and ultimately she ends up killing herself. So that works out in your favor. So here I do another big hit on Shakti. And then I just decide to annihilate Grievous, General Kenobi, take care of Shakti, and now I'm just trying to recover some health and protection. So my opponent really didn't have anything left on offense at all, because he went really heavy on defense. He set Grievous, Darth Revan, Padme, and a couple of other teams on top. So really we're in a pretty good situation right now. I'm fairly confident that he's not going to be able to even attempt me. So here we end with 55 banners, which is great against a highly relict Padme team. So that zone is cleared. Now I'm already at 1316. So now I'm thinking what to take up top. So I first go for the use my first order against the Karth team. Really, I don't think people should be keeping Karth on defense. It's a really pretty weak team and pretty easily taken out as well, especially by first order. So I I really don't recommend keeping this team on defense. Even if you have something else, make something different, make something tricky, and keep that on defense. First order can very easily take care of this team, along with quite a few other teams as well. So this was a pretty easy cleanup. I've sped up the video a little bit since I want to just rush through some of this. But it's so I've already talked about this technique to use against Karth quite a few times. I think a Karth with Watt may be a little more tricky, but even that is pretty easily taken out. I have really in the past taken out Karth with Watt with just my first order itself. So even that is not completely safe to take out. All right, so now this battle is almost done. We are pretty close to, yeah, the AoE here takes out Juhani, and now we are almost at full health, full protection. So basically you're just gifting your opponents full free 60 banners if you leave Karth on defense. Actually, Karth might be a very decent team on offense as well because of all the protection and health recovery. With Watt, they actually can take out a pretty good Night Sister team as well. So I would strongly consider leaving Karth on offense. So now I decide to take a few teams against General Grievous. And I know that I don't have anything much left. I just have Jedi Knight Revan, but without Basti. So I decide to, because Watt is in there, I know that it's going to be tricky, and all I need to do is clear the zone to win, clear the section to win. I've already won, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear the area. So what I'm going to do is take in a few teams to try to whittle down this team one by one. Very first, I want to take out Watt. So CLS is the best team for that, just because he shoots first, and I can get ahead of the team before he gives it tech out to Magna Guard. And now I'm just trying to take down as many characters as I can before I go in with my next few teams in order to take Grievous out. So here I've taken out a couple of characters, which is a good outcome. B1, B2 is always troublesome, and then Watt, who can get problematic with his techs. So I've taken those two guys out, and the CLS team has done its job. And now I go in with my next team to try to whittle down a little more. And now I think I go in with my Darth Revan team to try to take out maybe one or two more characters. And even this is not the full Darth Revan team. There's no Malak, there's no Basti, so even this is not going to probably have the desired result. But I just filter for tanks and taken a few whatever tanks I have left, just to just in order to buy these guys some time to take out a few more characters. So the tanks are taking the brunt of the damage so far. I apply some fear on everyone, and I'm just trying to take down Magna Guard at this stage, so that the next time when I go in. So here Deathmark did get applied, but unfortunately it got shed a little too fast. So I wasn't able to take this down before Grievous down before I had a chance to go against him with the Deathmark. So maybe I could have played that a little better, but I had enough teams to burn down. I was saving my Jedi Knight Revan for the Nest team down below, because that would be an easy match. So the Grievous team is one of those teams that you can very easily whittle down bit by bit. So you can take in I had a bunch of teams left, secondary teams including Evox and all of that. So I wasn't really worried about it. I can easily take teams bit by bit to go and take this down. So what I decided to do over here was apply blind on Grievous, and then start working to take down B1, so that I take down as many stacks of B1 as possible. And because of all the assists that these guys have, so here I tried to blow up against Grievous, but that didn't work. So then I decided to just go after B1 and finish him off. And then lone Grievous can be handled by many different ways. Yeah, now this Grievous is gone, so the Karth team is gone. So now I go back in and and try to clean it up with something else. So I want to try the Java counter against these guys, because Grievous, Java, they do thermal damage, which is basically health percentage damage. So they can be used as a reliable counter team against that. So I've never really tried this out, and my Javas are like gear 9 or so. So I wanted to take them in with a tank to see, whether they're able to get anything done or not. Maybe if they were a little more tanky, this might have worked. But let's see how much damage I'm able to do. So every time that Grievous attacks the Javas with Scavenger present, he's going to have a thermal applied over there. So you can see over here 2 thermals were applied, and I popped them with this guy. So maybe I should have waited to pop them. So there's another 2 thermals applied over here. So the thermals are popping, but they're not able to do enough damage. So this was a learning experiment which really failed. Didn't do anything much. Then I go in with my regular counter to solo Grievous, which is my Jin with Biston. This is basically the turn meter reduction team. What you have to do to take down a solo Grievous is treat him like the Rancor, which is basically reducing his turn meter. So you have to take in a team of either rebels or anyone else who can really reduce a lot of turn meter and apply thermals if possible. In this case, both Greedo and Zam can apply thermal, and Zam can pop the thermals using a basic. So I took these 2 guys in. Greedo has the additional advantage of also being able to reduce turn meter. Jin and Biston obviously can reduce turn meter as well. And then I'm trying to decide which 5th character to take who can also reduce turn meter. And I think I finally end up going with Logray, I think, who's also pretty good at removing turn meter. Let's see. Yep, I go in with Logray over here. I could have gone in with all 5 Evox as well. Those guys also do a pretty good job because of all the extra turns they get, the turn meter that they get. So all 5 Evox also is a decent cleanup team. But Jin and thermals also do a pretty decent job. So here I remove some more turn meter, apply basic, apply some more thermals which did not land. I don't need to reduce turn meter, so I just do a basic and keep applying stun and removing turn meter. So the basic from Zam here popped the 2 thermals and got him down in the yellow, and then Greedo went and reduced some more turn meter. So that's the name of the game. Just keep on reducing turn meter and keep working on him slowly until you're able to whittle him down. So 1 more thermal over here which did not stick. He managed to get an attack in but wasn't able to get much health, which is good. And some more turn meter reduction. And 1 final hit. This should take care of him. So that's I found to be the most effective and cheap way to take care of a lone Grievous if you don't have any teams to spare. So that team was taken care of. It took 5 battles, but after the 3rd battle, all matches are giving you the same amount of points. So it doesn't really matter. So now I decide to take care of the last team with my Jedi Knight Revan. I have a few Jedi left. The most important ones being Jolie and Hermit Grandmaster Yoda. This team is pretty easy to handle this particular team. One interesting synergy that the opposing team has is Nest and Wampa on the same team. Anytime you do an AoE, both of them start to counter an attack. And what ends up happening is Nest applies an expose on a basic, and Wampa can stun someone on on expose on basic. So excuse me. So that's a really good synergy that I've observed over here. Obviously it's pretty wasteful to keep both Nest and Wampa on the same team, but in case they are on the same team, then any AoE that you do, your character can end up getting stunned, primarily because of Nest and Wampa together. So here I'm just taking down the characters one by one. They're really no match for Jedi Knight Revan and Yoda's damage. And this Wampa really wasn't very powerful, only G12 and not much damage. Alright, so it's just a lone nest now to take care of, and I do a big hit and take care of her, and that's it. This area is clear, and now we just have ships to take care of. So 1669 so far. We already have the victory, and over here I see that my opponent has not kept his negotiator on defense, which is really strange because they had the negotiator and I don't, and there's really no need to save the negotiator on offense. An Akbar ship can easily take care of any other defense that I can possibly put out there. So anyway, it's an easy battle for me because I don't really have to worry too much about an Akbar mirror match, especially since I have Biston and my opponent doesn't. So I just go in with a full squad, and I think I take out one for the undersized squad victory, and I just go in to finish off the final fleet and end the match. So they don't have Houndstooth as well. I think they kept Houndstooth on offense to try to take out my ship zone. So this is really a very weak team over here. So Biggs is taken out pretty early, and then Ghost is taken out pretty soon after that, and then it should be an easy enough job to take out the remaining ship. Okay, so now I get in my own Phantom and take care of Han first, and then the others. Alright, so pretty straightforward battle, 64 points on that, and that gets me a total of 1886. So ultimately in the end my opponent ended up not attacking me here as well, so that was the final score, 1886 to 1337. So that was the end of this session. So overall a pretty satisfying week. My first opponent was didn't attack me, so it was a bit of a damn squib, but the other two opponents that I had, both Kyber combatants, and pretty satisfying matches, pretty tough defenses that I faced with them. So it was pretty satisfying beating those two guys. So now we are at the end of the first week, and just about to start the second week. It should start in about 24 hours. I in the meantime, I think I'm going to relic up a few characters, switch my mods around a little bit, and tweak my strategy slightly, so that we are ready for next week. So that's it for the first week of Grand Arena. One thing interesting to note at the end of the first week is we have most of the active people who won have moved over to Bronzium, but we do have a few people in Chromium, which is actually pretty easy to see. So you can see over here we have probably maybe 50 to 100 people, maybe more than that, in Chromium, because anyone above 11 to 50 is going to be in Chromium basically. So all these guys, because the way the matchmaking works is you are matched within a single league. So all the guys in Bronzium are going to be matched up with each other, and all the guys in Chromium are going to be matched up with each other. So these 200 to 300 people who are in Chromium right now are all going to be matched up for week 3. So that's going to make a pretty interesting setup. This is actually the very first time that something like this is happening, because the way that the points were set up before, you really could advance only one league at a time. You couldn't jump 2 leagues like what's happened in the first week here. But that's going to be something interesting to keep an eye out for next week. But otherwise, that's it for this session of the first week of Grand Arena Championships. I will stick to this weekly compilation format, and I will catch you guys in about a week's time from now. Until then, I will catch you later. Thanks for joining in.